Every novel is either an interview or a date. Since writers have only one chance to make a successful first impression, it's crucial that the opening lines in a story pique the reader's interest and curiosity. The writer should paint an image that prepares every reader for the adventure to come. Here are some examples. The edge of justice. Clouds of bright red dust mingled with hot, steamy smoke settled like a suffocating veil into my trench, coating my sweat-glistened arms with gritty powder. To my right, 45 young men, most of whom had never fired a shot in anger, awaited nervously. Some coughed, others cursed, while a few prayed to obscure small-town gods or even the emperor himself. I didn't bother with prayers. I had long ago given up on faith and forgotten how to pray. The long journey. Kindness betrayed them. Their gentle tones of voice, expressions forever bordering on a smile, and the subtle and soft glisten of longing gazes proclaimed mutual passion in a compelling manner. They'd learned to avoid touching in public, yet often sat close enough that only a paper leaf could pass between their shoulders. Never did they refer to one another in terms of endearment, preferring first names spoken in Asgar Vulgate, a tongue native to neither, but one they both understood. Crisis. A cool mist hovering over the surface of Wounded Heart Creek whispered rumors of summer's imminent demise. Gentle wind fluttered the yellowing leaves high in the upper branches of aspen trees. Waning light filtered along either bank of the tumbling waters. Warm weather vanished on the fleeting heels of shorter daylight hours as the Daystar retreated southward, leaving lengthening shadows between the mountain ridges, fallen leaves on the forest floor, and a sense of urgency among all living creatures to complete preparations for the long, cold season ahead. Ceremonies and celebrations. Cassie awoke to the sound of gunfire. Her eyes opened, but she did not move, listening, with a pounding heart, to the patter of rain on the window. Slowly and carefully she reached for a deadly sharp boot knife hidden beneath her pillow. With her fingers wrapped around its handle, she turned her head toward the door and waited breathlessly. Short bursts from an automatic rifle confirmed that she had not imagined the threat. Judging its direction, the Lithian maiden deduced that a gunfight had begun inside the palace complex, several floors beneath her room. Dreams and missions. Algernon dreamed of autumn, of yellow sycamore and red maple leaves fluttering to the ground until they littered the landscape in brilliant color. A house he'd built stood in the midst of a hardwood forest, waiting. Every night the vision returned, and as he contemplated its meaning, Algernon concluded that this dream warned his life was about to change. The inquest. "Are you with us, Lieutenant?" He really wasn't. Echoes of vivid memory distracted the handsome young officer, pulling him far away from the hearing room, its microphones, reporters, and the curious citizenry crammed into its gallery. He recalled heat and thirst, swarms of biting flies and dark clouds driven by strong wind that swept across the broad sky. Graphic imagery stormed out of his mental prison and flooded into Garrick's consciousness. An involuntary tremble betrayed his racing heart. The decorated combat leader wiped his dampened brow with his left sleeve, smearing his dress uniform with sweat. He would never forget the aroma of the grassland, the smell of equine flesh, the acrid bite of smokeless powder, the stench of burnt bodies and emptied bowels. Dark scenes of 1,000 hooves pounding the plain shook his soul. Gunfire, mingled with the solidarity-inspiring battle cries, the whisk of bullets whispering through the air, the screams of the wounded and the delirium of the dying, wrought a visceral response that drained the color from his face. Secrets and whispers. A few hours before she drew her last breath, Frida Bergen summoned Algernon, first priest of the Holy Order of Ravenwood, to deliver the ordinance of final rites. She did not articulate a motive for this request. She never discussed her reasoning with anyone, but smiled weakly before slipping out of consciousness just as Algernon scurried into the room. The troubled priest wondered if this dying woman's gesture signaled a desire for reconciliation. Her labored breathing, pallid skin, chapped lips, and dry, sticky tongue foretold of her imminent departure from the physical world and into unity with the great God. Maybe Mrs. Bergen, who'd always maintained a harsh, critical attitude toward him, sensed his doubt about spiritual uncertainties of this kind and understood his longing for personal connection. Maybe calling him to her deathbed affirmed her unspoken belief in his sincerity. Blood on the warpath. Brenna Velez felt her husband's hand touch her shoulder and gently glide down her back as he sat down. The scowl on her lovely face faded under the warmth of his attention, morphing into a wistful sadness. She abandoned the sheet music on a nearby chair and shut her eyes as his lips neared hers, met, and lingered far longer than they typically permitted in public, at least at home in Temeria. "What's wrong?" he asked. The young woman huffed a short, sharp breath as she reached for the music collection again. "The judges gave me 3 hours to review these pieces," she told him. "They're expecting me to perform them in some kind of elimination round this afternoon." Lieutenant Garrick Ravenwood, her husband, knitted his brow. "Isn't that the point of the competition?" "Well, it would be if I'd never seen these pieces before." "So you know them?" he asked. Brenna nodded. "I played every one of these when I was little. This one," she said, referring to a particular composition, "gave me no trouble when I was 5. What does it take to grab your attention as a reader? Drop a line in the comments and let me know. If you're intrigued by what you've heard here, head over to the World of Devra website at www.newadventure.ca/books and pick up a copy of the series for yourself. It's adventure for your mind and romance for your heart.